Move to Queens. Move to Queens.
I'm gonna do it.
You notice there are never any sirens here?
There's
like
no
maybe
crime
once
in
an episode.
Queensbay. Sup, nerds? It's basketball. Welcome to Horse, a basketball podcast about everything except for the wins and losses. My name is Mike Schubert, and I'm joined by my trusted co-host, the Charles Barkley being awesome to Charles Barkley being an ally. It's Adam Amawala. Adam, how are you doing?
You know, I'm doing well, and I have to say, if you had asked me 20 years ago who would be a bigger ally, J.K. Rowling or Charles Barkley, I might have guessed wrong. And you know what? Good for Charles Barkley.
For anyone unaware, Charles Barkley recently was at some sort of event. It looked like a concert or something of sorts. And he gets up on stage and he very loudly proclaims,
I want to say this. If you're gay and transgender, I love you. Hey, and if anybody gives you shit, you tell them Charles said, fuck you.
Put that on a t-shirt yesterday.
it's so good and it's so pure and it's so simple, and it's just great to see someone who has such a presence in the basketball sphere and such a presence in a space where lots of people leave really crappy comments on social media, for him to say this. And it makes me very happy. And I'm very happy that if you look on NBA Reddit, it has so many likes and comments and everything. Just to give perspective, in the past month, it is the number one post with 76,600 upvotes, and the next highest one has 28,700 upvotes. And there are over 100 things where people give Reddit gold and different awards. So even the gross people on Reddit that can exist like this, you truly love to see it. Shout out to Charles Barkley.
Absolutely.
And shout out to all the people who are trans or anything that is being persecuted right now. If anybody gives you shit, you tell them that Adam and Mike said fuck you.
The two of us will show up with Charles Barkley and defend you if needed.
And Charles will do most of the work because he's enormous.
Naturally.
So we are here to discuss basketball of all sorts, fun things in the NBA and the WNBA. I had a fun experience. We're going to answer a basketball related question from one of you lovely listeners. But before we get into any of that, let's get prepared to do all of that in the Teal Memorial Locker Room. Teal, doing great. She'll join us in our Charles Barkley versus the world fight.
You know what? I believe she will. But tell us what's going on in there.
Well, there's a lot of fun stuff going on. You know who else is having a fun time and would also probably join for the big old kerfuffle that we're having with closed-minded people across the globe?
I have to imagine our patrons.
It's all of our patrons and also our producer-level patrons especially. So shout out to Polly Burge, Kendra Hadley, Salvatore Testa, Trust the Process, Siobhan Ellsbury, He Sells Seashells, Don't Go Chasing Taco Falls, Bang, Bang, Long-Suffering Timberwolves Fan, Roast Beef Debris, Cade the Conqueror, Basketball is Life 2, Michaela Loves Allison, Denver Steam Nuggets, Anna Borgelli, Weird Questions, Mitch Chrysler, Kef Sturry for 3.
Bang.
And Nicole Arsenault. Kef Sturry's a fun one.
Little spoonerism for you. Is that what, I believe that's what that's called, right? When you switch the first letters of words?
Yes. It's not Pig Latin. That's slightly different, but not the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're right.
Let's just assume I'm right and move on.
Let's move on to someone who definitely assumes you're right. You know who that is?
You know what? I bet it is a sponsor. And how about a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp? So here's the question, right? How well would you take care of your car if you had to keep the same one your entire life? Well, that's how our brains work, so we should probably treat them that way. How we take care of our minds affects how we experience life, right? So it's important to invest time and care into keeping them healthy. I am a big proponent of this. I think that therapy is enormously helpful. Hopefully you do as well. And there are plenty of ways to support a healthy brain, like learning a new language or taking power naps, but there's also BetterHelp online therapy. As I've mentioned before, I am a proponent of therapy. I have gone to therapy. Frankly, I should go back to therapy. And one of the biggest obstacles is that it is expensive, and that is something that BetterHelp helps with. BetterHelp is an online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat-only therapy sessions, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. And honestly, that is a relief because it's not always necessary. It can be much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours, which is awesome. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/horse. That's betterhelp.com/horse.
Fantastic. Also want to thank Multitude for having us as a part of the collective. There's so many wonderful podcasts that Multitude makes. There's also extra goodies that you can get by joining the Multi-Crew. If you go to multicrew.club, you can get access to a whole bunch of fun stuff as a thank you for helping us do various podcasting things. But one of the new things that you can get access to is the Multi-Crew Pen Pal Club. So this new perk is for all Multi-Crew members. And if you're looking to make a new friend and connect with others, or you're ready to bust out the old pen and paper, or you're in the market for a virtual buddy to brighten up your email inbox, the Multi-Crew Pen Pal Club is here for you. Any tier gets access to it, and you will get paired with a hand-picked pal and fellow Multi-Crew member based on your interests, location, availability, and most importantly, taste in Multitude shows. So you can join the Multi-Crew for as little as $5 a month at multicrew.club, and you'll get access to this and a whole bunch of other stuff. And with that complete, we can get into full court press, get it like the news, and also the basketball move that we taught you about in the last episode of Horse.
There you go.
All right, so there's a wide range of news today. One is sad, one is frustrating and funny, and the other one is just interesting and spicy. So let's go in that direction. The first thing, Miles Bridges, who is an NBA player currently for the Charlotte Hornets, has been charged with domestic violence and child abuse. I'm not going to get super in detail about it because it is pretty gruesome. We will put a link to an article about it on the episode page at horsehoops.com. But basically, he caused physical, mental, and emotional trauma against his girlfriend and kids, and it's really bad, and he faces up to 11 years in prison. He has pleaded not guilty. We'll see what happens, but this is a terrible situation, and I guess the only saving grace is that it seems like even the most diehard of Charlotte Hornet fans are saying, get this dude the hell off of our team and get this guy in jail, out of the league. I would really hope that he does not find his way back into the NBA if he is found guilty, and it's just a terrible situation. It's just so sad.
Right. And I am, to your point, I am heartened to know that people largely have reacted the way we would hope they would, which is not to think about like, oh, what are the basketball ramifications of this? It's like, no, there are human lives that are very much impacted by this person's behavior if these allegations are true. And it sure as hell looks like they are. So yeah, really, really awful situation. And hopefully the legal system will address it as needed. And also, if the legal system doesn't do everything that it can, I hope that the NBA is not a league that's like, you know what? Well, once all that's behind you, come on back. Right. Because that happens way too much in sports. It happens all the time in the NFL. It happens in my beloved baseball far too often. I'm sure it has happened in the NBA. I'm not a huge fan.
Yeah, and this is something that hasn't happened in the NBA recently to this extent. You've had some other folks get some charges for stuff, but nothing this terrifying in a long time. It happened with some players in the past, and unfortunately kind of got swept under the rug. Like remember the whole Jason Kidd thing where he beat up his spouse, and then now it's just like, oh yeah, Jason Kidd, coach of the Mavericks, oh, NBA legend. And it was very much swept under the rug. I would hope that that doesn't happen here, because this kind of feels like the first big one in a while. So let's kind of set the tone and not be like the NFL where, oh, you get a 2-week suspension or whatever. Like, I would hope that the NBA uses this as a chance to really say, hey, if this happens, we have no tolerance for it. We're just going to have to see what happens.
Yeah, agreed.
But yes, thankfully, the response has been pretty good. And I did even go to the Hornets subreddit just to see what they were talking about. And most people were like, F this dude, get him out of here. And then there was one thread that I did find interesting. Someone basically wrote, am I a bad person for also being sad about the basketball situation? And the top comment, which I agree with, was, you're allowed to be sad about the situation happening to the Hornets, but you also need to remember it is nowhere near as important as what happened to this guy's family.
Agreed. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. So let's move on to things that are a little more fun, but still not unicorns and rainbows. Liz Cambage, who has been no stranger to drama, who used to play for the Los Angeles Sparks, now has divorced her contract. It is the second divorced contract of the WNBA season. It happened earlier with Tina Charles. It is now happening for Liz Cambage. We are recording this on July 27th. This all happened yesterday, so we'll see if more news comes out. But we'll put a link to an article about it. There's a fun write-up from Yahoo Sports by Chris Haynes that goes pretty in detail about it. But apparently, before she stormed out of the locker room, she said, quote, "I can't do this anymore. Best of luck to you guys." And she just...
I appreciate the well wishes that she left.
Right, yeah. Apparently, there had been lots of burbling things throughout the season. It got off to a rocky start because she wanted to wear number 8 for the Los Angeles Sparks, but that number was going to be retired for Delisha Milton-Jones, who used to play for the Sparks. So then she said, "Oh, can I have number 1? But there was somebody on the team, Amanda Zawi-B, who wore number 1 for the team. And apparently, Derek Fisher, the coach, went up to Amanda and saying, "Hey, can we give your number to Liz Cambage?" And Amanda said, "No, the number 1 means a lot to me." And Cambage basically said, "I don't care. I still want to be number 1. And then via social media, Amanda learned that Liz Cambage was going to be number 1 and she was going to have to pick a new number.
I don't like that. Historically, the way this has worked, at least in baseball, is that if you want someone's number and they give it to you, at the very least, you give that person a gift of some sort, right? If you are an established player, you get traded to a team, you want to keep, say, number 22. If some younger player gives it up to you, you buy that person a Rolex or something. It doesn't seem like any of that happened here.
No, it just kind of sounds like Liz was using her star status and, I don't know, it's just a number. Like, if it's important to this person to keep it, I don't think it should be that much more important to you unless you have some truly meaningful number. But I just think you wanted to be number 1. Anyway, other things. Apparently, Liz Cambage used to yell at her teammates during film sessions when people watch replays of the games with their coaches to see how they can improve. She would just yell at people for not passing to her. And then teammates would say, "You're not getting open enough." And then it would just be a back and forth. She would also complain a lot about the practice facility, but apparently a lot of people did complain about it, that it's not very nice. So that's not all on Liz. But regardless, she has divorced her contract. She has not signed with a new team yet. Given all of the drama and all of Liz's frustrations with the WNBA, even in seasons past, there was a time where I think she was traded to the Tulsa Shock and just didn't want to play there, so she didn't show up. Or maybe she was drafted. There was some sort of situation where she was supposed to play for the Tulsa Shock, and she said no thank you, and just stayed playing overseas. So I would not be surprised if Liz is just gone. / I don't know if any team's going to want her. It's kind of like the current Kyrie situation where there's just so much other stuff that goes along with it. Does a team really want to bring that into the mix, even if she is very good at basketball, which she is?
Right.
Just feels like a lot of unnecessary drama.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Now, speaking of necessary drama, NBA free agency is still raging on. We are recording this on July 27th, meaning that something will happen on July 28th, but there are still unsettled things with some big name players. We don't have many updates, but we will at least address some things. You've got Kevin Durant, who has requested a trade away from the Brooklyn Nets, still has not been traded. You've got Donovan Mitchell, who feels like he's going to be traded away from the Utah Jazz, who are just trying to blow it up and rebuild. There's lots of scuttlebutt that the Knicks want to trade for Donovan Mitchell, but it's an interesting situation where the Jazz want to get rid of him as soon as possible. The Knicks want the price to be lower, back and forth there. And then Kyrie Irving still isn't on a team at all. I don't think he's signed a contract. I think it would have to be a sign and trade. Lots of stuff there. How are you feeling about all of the various free agency moves and such?
I mean, it doesn't really affect me that directly because none of this really involves the Bulls that much. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on Donovan Mitchell potentially being traded to the Knicks and what you think they would need to give up to get him.
I would love it if Donovan Mitchell was on the Knicks. I would also love it if the Knicks did not trade a whole heck of a lot to get Donovan Mitchell, because the Jazz are in a situation where they want to trade Donovan Mitchell before the season starts because they want to be as bad as possible so that they could have a high draft pick and maybe get the consensus number 1 pick, this dude named Victor Wembanyama, who's a 7'5" guard.
Yeah.
Imagine if Kevin Durant was somehow 5 inches taller.
It's unbelievable, yeah. We'll have to post some video of this guy.
He's ridiculous. It's just so strange to see a human that big move that quickly and be so agile.
Right.
So the Jazz want to lose as many games as possible. The Knicks don't have as much of a rush to get Donovan Mitchell, so it's going to be this weird waiting game of hoping that the Jazz get a little more desperate, maybe bring the price down. I think it would be very fun to have him on the team, but I don't want to give up a bunch of our young guys in order to do so, because then it's like the Carmelo trade where we gave away a bunch of young, fun pieces, and then, sure, you get the big dude, but then your team going forward isn't that great. It would be different if we were in a situation where we were just one guy away from being really good, but we're not one guy away from being really good. So I don't want to give up a bunch of young guys that could potentially be very good for our team, because then we'll have Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell and Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson, and that's it. You need more than 4 good basketball players to win a championship.
Agreed. And some other fun Knicks news. I don't know if you saw this, but our former guest, Chris Herring, who wrote the incredible book, Blood in the Garden, The Flagrant History of the New York Knicks, which Schubes has kindly loaned to me. Not only was that book listed on Barack Obama's Books of the Year, which is incredibly cool and has to be surreal, but there are also rumblings that Spike Lee is looking to turn it into a series, which I imagine would be kind of like Winning Time, the show about the Lakers on HBO, except the Knicks version of it. So all of this is very cool. It's got to be very exciting for Chris Herring. And just from a practical standpoint, there could be a lot of money to be made for Mr. Herring, and good for him.
Good for him, indeed. Those 2 pieces of news came out on the same day, which I think is very fun. And he tweeted something to the effect of it's all coming out at once. It's a big whirlwind of information. But yeah, the Spike Lee thing is interesting because they said the Knicks thing would be a film series, which is at least the report.
Okay. But that could mean like a documentary series that would then be released on like a Netflix or something like that. It's unclear what film series really means.
Right. I would hope it would skew more documentary and less fictionalized stuff, because that kind of thing just frustrates me a little bit. I didn't end up watching more than 1 episode of Winning Time. Just kind of annoyed me not to know what was real and what was embellished.
Right.
And it just took me a lot of time to Google stuff every time something happened. So I would hope it's more documentary, and maybe it's even something where maybe instead of being a bunch of short things, maybe it is a couple hour-and-a-half long docs or something, and they break it up for particular years or eras. It would be interesting. And Spike Lee, if there's anybody to make something a little against the grain and not necessarily formulaic, it would be Spike. So I'm intrigued, and he's been doing great work in the docu space with Baseball Reference, the Captain, the Derek Jeter thing, which I've been devouring, that he has a big hand in. So clearly he knows what he's doing about New York sports related documentary series. So if that's the route it goes, that'll be super fun.
Agreed. And it pains me to put this on record officially, but the Captain is very good.
Well, on that wonderful note, you at your most painful, let's get into our question of the episode, where we answer someone's question about basketball inspired by our NB Q&A. So here's today's little NB Q&A. What do we have, Adam?
Absolutely. So we received a message on Twitter from a user named Isabel, and Isabel says, "It's late, I know, but I just saw the call for Q's, so forgive and forget, ? Smiley face. Forgiven and forgotten, Isabel. There are a few things I love more than basketball people live reacting to Alyssa Thomas's stats. It almost never disappoints. My girl is an absolute menace, and with Sue retiring, she's my candidate for the Mike's Favorite Women's Player Award. Best wishes." So, Mike, I guess my question is, any thoughts on Alyssa Thomas?
Alyssa Thomas is very good at basketball, and I appreciate that this year she is having more of a bounce back year. And I appreciate that this year she's really putting up some solid numbers. She was an all-star this year, which is great. She's shooting well from the field. She had a great year in 2020. She didn't have a great year in 2021. She is having a great year this year. I would love to see her continue to do well. Yeah, I think she's a wonderful player, and she shoots a very high percentage, which is fun. She's putting up good numbers for the Connecticut Sun. So yes, go Alyssa Thomas.
So along those lines, I guess my follow-up question would be, when Sue Bird retires, who will become your favorite WNBA player?
I will probably root for Diana Taurasi until she retires. I don't know how long that will go on.
I don't know, 10, 20 years.
I mean, truly, I know she's 1 year younger than Sue, but I feel like she might be playing more than 1 year. But also, who's to say? Maybe at the end of this year, she goes, I'm just going to play one more. But it feels like she's got more in the tank to go. There's some other folks I really like. I really do enjoy Asia Wilson on the Las Vegas Aces. I like Kelsey Plum on the Las Vegas Aces. She's very fun. But now that I think of it, I'm probably going to just pick someone on my beloved Seattle Storm. And I really like Jewel Lloyd a lot. I had the pleasure of seeing her live recently, as we will discuss in my That Actually Happened. And she's very good at basketball and very talented. And there was a fun clip posted by the Seattle Storm of a highlight where you can see me in the background of a Jewel Lloyd highlight. I really like Jewel Lloyd a lot. So I think she'll probably become my favorite player. But there's lots of players that I like. And it'll be like the NBA where there's a lot of people that I really enjoy. So Alyssa Thomas wasn't high on my favorite players to watch list, but per the suggestion of Isabel, I will add her to my list of people to keep an eye out for.
There you go.
And now we can move on into 3-on-3.
1, 2, 3. 3, 2, 1. 3-on-3.
What do you got for us, Adam?
Well, I will tell you what I have for you and for all of you. We've talked a lot on this show about Kevin Durant's recent trade request, but today I want to focus on KD's true talent, tweeting.
Yes.
I believe you have often referred to him as the best Twitter follow in the NBA. And so with that in mind, I did some digging and I proudly present Kevin Durant's 3 best basketball-related and non-basketball-related tweets of 2022.
Just of the year. That's really
Just of
good.
the year. I mean,
okay.
I only have so much time. I'm not going to go through his entire Twitter history.
Yeah.
Naturally, my expanded 5-on-5 will include some additional content, and let this be a reminder to all of you to become a patron at any level at patreon.com/horsehoops. Now, for reference, before we get started, our listeners should know that Durant's Twitter handle is at KDTrey, Trey 5, and his Twitter bio says, quote, all caps, I'm me, I do me, and I chill.
And it's been that forever.
Yes, yes, it has. His background photo is a quote that says, I hate small talk, what you want. And his profile photo is an image of a bunch of knives pointed at a cartoon dude. Is that from Shrek? I was trying to place what that's from.
It is from Tangled.
Ah,
and it is
okay.
Flynn Rider drawing the ire of everyone else in the pub, putting swords at his neck. This was a Twitter meme a couple years ago where people would post unpopular opinions, and Kevin Durant changed his profile picture to that when that was at the height of it. And I think he was also tweeting things that were upsetting people, as he often does. So he did it at that one point in time, and it doesn't feel like he's ever changing it back because he's always tweeting spicy things.
It is true. So with that in mind, I will let you choose. Would you like to hear the basketball tweets first or the non-basketball tweets?
Let's start with the basketball so that we can end on the non-basketball so that we can then discuss his worst tweet ever, which is a very old tweet.
Okay, sounds good. All right. So at number 3 on our basketball list, we have a tweet from June 20th in which KD replies to a fan asking his advice. The fan asks, at KDTrey5, if I take 5 back-to-back mid-range jump shots over 2 and 3 defenders, but make 4 out of 5, are my teammates right in saying I'm taking, quote, bad shots, or should I keep pushing when I'm feeling it? KD quote tweets it and replies, shoot the next one. Your teammates got to lock in on defense until the flurry is over, and then they can get some shots up.
That's good. I mean, that's not bad advice. If you're shooting 80%, it's a great clip.
It's true. It begs the question, is it a bad shot if it keeps going in? It's almost like the Steph Curry thing where on paper, yeah, a lot of the shots he takes seem like they would be bad or ill-advised shots. Like you would never have thought that pulling up for a 40-footer when your team is tied is a good idea, but if you're Steph Curry, it is a good shot.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like this would have to be a longtime teammate versus pickup teammate, because if I had a teammate that was very good at making these and I played a lot of basketball with them, I would think, okay, that's fine. That's their shot. If this was pickup and it was a stranger that I met 5 seconds ago and they did this, I would hate this person even if they made 4 out of 5. I'd be so frustrated.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because every time it goes in, they're more emboldened to keep shooting terrible shots.
And just by the laws of the basketball gods of pickup basketball, this person would make enough shots until we were 1 basket away from winning, and then they would miss the next 7 shots. Yep. I have been in that situation where there's a dude who's just lights out, and then we have the game-winning shot potentially, and rather than pass it to an open teammate, he just throws up brick after brick, and then we lose.
Yep, it's very frustrating. Speaking of which, I played basketball this past Sunday. There's an ongoing weekly run that's mostly comedians. I want to get your thought on the etiquette of this, right? So we have game point. I think we were playing to 11. We were up like 10-6.
1s and 2s to 11. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I had basically like a wide open shot to win it. And someone just like didn't even go for the ball and just grabbed me. Like, that's shitty etiquette, right?
Yes, 100%.
I got mad about it, and they were like, what, it's game point. I got to do what I got to do to make sure you don't score. It's like, no, go for the ball at least. Like, they just hugged me. I was like, what are we doing here?
I've had some people do that, and it is really frustrating because when you're playing pickup basketball, usually you're not taking foul shots or anything like that. So you can do things that are basically flagrant fouls, and then the only penalty is your team gets the ball back. It's super frustrating, and I don't think there's any place for it.
I feel justified because that was a real like AITA, like, am I the asshole moment where I was I know I'm not being unreasonable thinking that that's poor form.
The other problem with that is if you continue to follow that line of thinking, that's where stuff gets dangerous. That's where if someone's in midair shooting the game-winning layup, that person could just try to deck you, and then it's scary. So I think it's a slippery slope. I could understand if it was a reach-in foul or something, but if you're going for the shot and someone just does a completely dirty foul, I would hate that. I would have been livid,
in this case, it wasn't dirty. It was more like I got the ball close to the basket and someone just like ran up and hugged me before I could get a shot.
No, I think that's stupid.
Yeah.
It's pickup basketball. Just try to genuinely contest it. I could see maybe getting away with a bit of a harder regular block attempt, but purely just the type of foul that people do to LeBron James when they just don't want him to score a fast break layup.
Right.
No. Not in pickup basketball. Get out of here.
Agreed.
Just let me make the shot and then we'll play another game. Why would you prolong this point by 5 more running it backs because you just keep fouling me every time we're close?
Also, in this particular case, the gym was not air conditioned. It was like 105 degrees in there. Arguably, it's better to lose so you can sit down for 10 minutes.
Yeah, get some water. Play another game.
All right, let's move on. So at number 2, we have another quote tweet situation, a real KD trademark on Twitter, in which Lakers legend James Worthy was asked about the state of the modern NBA and stated, quote, "All they do is practice threes, get tattoos, and tweet." KD quote tweets it and replies, "My midi," meaning his mid-range jumper, "is sharp, but James is right. This ain't the old days."
That's very fun because it's kind of like a backhanded compliment, but it's more of the compliment version of a psych take the high five away, where he starts to say, "Oh, James is right," but then doesn't actually agree with the broader point that he was making, which I think is great.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to number 1. This is actually a very recent tweet in response to the firestorm KD's former Warriors teammate Draymond Green set off when he tweeted about watching a 1998 NBA Finals game between the Chicago Bulls and Utah Jazz. Green tweeted, quote, "I'm watching the 98 Bulls versus Utah in the finals. I can't help but notice our 2017 team would have beaten these Bulls by a dub and these Jazz by 40 if they're going to play these brands of basketball, and that's why it's dumb to compare eras," end quote. In response, KD tweeted, "I can't tell you what the results would be, but I do know that Steve Kerr would have demanded that we put Steve Kerr in as many pick and rolls as possible." So the joke here is that Steve Kerr was a player on the 1998 Bulls, but was also the coach of the 2017 Warriors, and in this imaginary scenario would be coaching himself. It's a real Back to the Future scenario.
It's a phenomenal tweet, potentially his best tweet ever. Certainly his best basketball tweet. So I'm so glad you picked it number 1. I also do want to talk about the Draymond Green thing because this was such a wild ride. This all happened on July 24th. First, Draymond tweets something that I agree with. He says, question, when they be comparing eras, are they taking into consideration the drastic differences in style of play? Regardless of the answer, it's very dumb to compare one era to the next era. And I agree with that. I think it's very strange. Basketball changes and develops. The rules change. So comparing eras, I think, is always silly. However, Draymond's next tweet is the one that you described, where he literally then compares eras.
Right. He kind of contradicted himself.
The first tweet was at 10:01 p.m. The second tweet was at 10:03 p.m. So 2 minutes later, he does it. And then his next tweet at 10:05 p.m., he says, learn to appreciate things for what they are, analyze the game, and stop the unnecessary debating. Yours truly, the new media, which he is talking about new players getting into the podcast and analyst space. So it's a sandwich with contradiction bread, where he says, don't do this, and then he does this, and then he says, don't do it again. Very interesting run of tweets from Draymond Green.
Is contradiction bread gluten-free?
I mean, maybe if it's truly contradiction bread, it says it's gluten-free, but it has gluten in it, or the reverse.
That's dangerous. Wow.
Or maybe it's just the reverse. Maybe it isn't listed as gluten-free, but it actually is gluten-free. And the problem is that gluten-free folks could be eating this bread, but they just don't know.
All right, let's move on to the non-basketball tweets. Here we go. All right. At number 3, we have a tweet from May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, in which at KD Trey Cinco, see what I did there, had this to say, quote, "It's like I enjoy doing nothing, but when I'm tired of doing nothing, I gotta do something. This is my fight," end quote. And honestly, I've never related to KD more. What are your thoughts?
I'm surprised this tweet wasn't from May 5th, 2020, when at 2 months of the pandemic lockdown, we all thought, do I want to do something or do I want to do nothing? It was a weird, you were either doing as much as you could or as little as you could. An interesting time indeed.
I find that I feel that way the most when I have, like, let's say 20 or 30 minutes before the next thing I have to do. And I'm like, this isn't enough time to really do anything, but it feels like too much time to do nothing.
Yeah, I feel you. this is why anytime I have anything scheduled, I try to make it as close compact together, because if I have a recording and then a meeting, if you get that in between time, it really sucks. But I also have the very gross internal thought that I have to try to squash, which is that anytime I'm relaxing, I think, but I could be working, because there's always little things I can do. Right. And I'm sure you relate to this as well. Like you could be making another clip for social media about a great joke you made at a stand-up set last night. And I could be doing something for a bonus episode, or I could be doing something for the website, or all these little things that I haven't gotten to. And it's just like, no, relax. It's Friday night. Just watch a movie.
Well, I think that's the thing that people don't realize about when they think it's so nice to work for yourself. It's like, yeah, but my boss is an asshole who expects too much from me.
Right. It's a weird thing where I do appreciate the flexibility of getting to do stuff like be in a Monday afternoon Central Park softball league. It's very nice. But on the flip side, I never truly have a vacation day ever.
Right. Yeah, it's weird. And and if you're someone who works hard and is ambitious, it's hard to ever give yourself that time to be like, I don't care about anything work related. I'm putting on an out of office reply. Like I do that maybe once every 2 years. And it both feels really great and also gives me a ton of anxiety.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Also, another thing while we're on this, I never get to expense anything to the company card. Well, I do, but unfortunately, I also pay for the company card. So I don't get to just write it off.
Can't just charge it to the game?
Nah, the only savings that happen are my taxes, I guess, which is nice. But yeah, it was much nicer when I worked for big fancy company and I could eat a sushi dinner where the menu said serves 3 and I just ate it for myself.
All right, let's move on. At number 2, we have an amazing reply from Kevin Durant to a tweet from late March that shows screenshots of his old MySpace page. That's right, folks. Durant has been a social media guru since the olden times, and as two dudes in their 30s, Schubes and I can certainly relate. So the original tweet comes from a Twitter account called @NBA_memes, and it says, quote, "KD's MySpace profile has me in tears. Bro was on demon time. Crying emoji. Skull emoji." End quote. Now, to really paint a picture, and obviously we will post a link to this, there is an image of a very young Kevin Durant throwing up a peace sign while holding some incredibly old bills. And the image is grainy, but I believe KD is stunting with $46. It appears to be...
Oh, we found our episode title, Stuntin' with $46.
Absolutely. It appears to be 2 20s, a 5, and a 1. Really hilarious. And next to that is an image of his profile, which reads, quote, "My name Kevin. I'm on this joint chillin', looking for youngins to chill with or just be friends. So if you feelin' me, get at your boy. My AIM, Kevin Balla 33. Yeah, that's me getting my dunk on and shit at the bottom. And you see the shirt, Texas Longhorns, baby, get at your boy. I'm 6'10", 205, brown skin, brown eyes, very athletic, and looking for a youngin' to chill with. Oh yeah, all the haters, thanks for doing you and helping me out." So even back in the day, Kevin Durant thriving off the haters. Just perfect, no notes. I don't even know what to say.
I'm just glad that from MySpace to Twitter, his mantra of I'm me, I do me, and I chill has stayed consistent throughout. And
he's been consistently chilling.
Just been chilling. Man, shout out to MySpace. I remember Josh Pacifico, our mutual friend, showing me what MySpace was in the basement of my parents' place. He was a very early adopter to MySpace, which made me be on a lot of people's top 8s because they used to just sort by how old your account was so that Tom would always be the number 1. And then they let you customize your top 8. And I got removed from a lot of people's top 8s. And it was not a good day for the mental health of 8th grade Mike Schubert.
Oh, boy. Shout out to the movie 8th Grade, which is very much along those lines.
Woofa doofa.
Yeah. But by the way, I haven't even gotten to KD's actual tweet in relation to this. So.
Oh, right. Oh, my God.
So KD quote tweets this whole thing with a photo of 2 dudes like hovering over a computer. I don't know what the reference is. I don't know who these people are. Maybe you do, and our listeners can let us know who it is. Do you know who it is?
Yes. So this meme is Young Thug, who is a very good rapper, leaning over a computer, clearly analyzing something where one guy is looking on very, oh my goodness, like. I do not know who this other guy is, but Young Thug looks so intense, like he is solving the problem from Good Will Hunting.
Right.
He's just so locked in.
So anyway, KD uses this image, and thank you for clarifying, with the tweet, me and my cousin Tia coding this in 03. So the funniest thing to me about it is that there are a lot of replies, and some of the replies are from people like me saying, like, who is this photo of? But then there are other replies from younger people who know exactly who the photo is. But then their question is like, what does coding have to do with social media? Like they can't comprehend what that has to do with MySpace. And that's very funny to me also.
For anyone unaware, MySpace had this very cool feature where you could basically enter in the HTML code and customize your profile with backgrounds and all this stuff. I went the full run of this. I had songs that would play. I had a background image. I was very much a Jersey Shore boy, so I had lots of beach-themed stuff in the background.
And to be clear, this was before the show Jersey Shore ever existed.
Yes, they made that show while I was in New Jersey, but then it released right after I moved to Texas, which was very great for me getting bullied in Texas. The beach that I went to was right next to where they shot the show. So I saw them filming it and stuff. They had all these posters and things to block the view outside the house saying they were filming an MTV show. And I was like, what MTV show are they going to do in Seaside Heights, New Jersey? And then I found out and it was very troubling for me. But I had a lot of beach themed stuff, ocean waves crashing. I had one of those things where you would answer a bunch of questions. I don't know if you were deep into the MySpace like I was, but I got really into all the HTML coding things. I didn't understand any of it, but there were websites that basically said, fill out this and we'll generate the code for you. And then here's where you copy paste it. And I did a lot of that.
I never got into the coding element of it, but I was definitely very active in MySpace, especially because given that I'm a bit older than you, like I went to college right on the cusp of MySpace becoming less popular and Facebook becoming more of a thing. So I definitely, especially in like late high school and early college was in the MySpace game. Also, speaking of the Jersey Shore, fun fact, I was once at Seaside and I was walking with my friend Tom across the street, like we had a crosswalk, and this black Escalade comes like zipping up and slams on the brakes because they were going way too fast. And it was one of those where we both were like, what the fuck? And then we looked in the car and it was like, oh, that's Pauly D and Mike the Situation Sorrentino, who almost hit us with their car. If they had, we probably could have gotten some money.
Probably.
At least from MTV, if not from them directly. All right, let's move on to number one. And for number one, we have a series of tweets from early July that we actually recently mentioned on an episode of Horse. But honestly, they were so good that we should just talk about them again. So KD tweets, did you add to your legacy today? If so, what did you do? And then he quote tweets in response to two replies. The first was from sports writer at Maggie Hendricks, who says, I emptied the dishwasher, to which KD replies, great leadership, Maggie. You made everybody in the house better today, which adds to your legacy. Next, KD quote tweets a response from media personality at the Jake McGrady, who says, drank 4.5 cups of coffee in 2 hours, which KD was not as impressed with. He quote tweets it and responds simply, that's not enough. Legacy points deducted.
A savage man.
Yeah, and those are the three best basketball and non-basketball tweets of the year from Kevin Durant, and there will be more in my 5 on 5.
Fantastic. Now, I would like to end this segment by pointing out Kevin Durant's worst tweet of all time, which is from January 16th of 2011. So Kevin Durant was 23 years old. He tweeted, quote, Scarlett Johansson, I believe he spelled her last name wrong, I will drink your bathwater, .. #random.
Well, I think he's going to have to discuss that with Colin Jost, but interesting tweet.
I understand the sentiment. I don't understand wanting to drink anyone's bathwater, even someone that you would find very attractive.
No, yeah, that's gross.
Pretty gross. So now, for That Actually Happened. Recently, I was fortunate enough to attend the final regular season matchup between Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi in Phoenix, Arizona, and I sat courtside with Salvatore Testa, who trusted the process the entire time. That actually happened, and I'm excited to tell you all about what went down.
So cool. I'm truly so happy for you that you got to have this experience and that it worked out the way you wanted, which is they both played. You got to have some sort of interaction with both of them, which is amazing. So go ahead and tell us what it was like.
Yeah. So this had been planned for a very, very long time. Sal and I, pre-COVID, had discussed, hey, courtside seats for WNBA games are usually pretty cheap, at least by comparison to courtside seats of an NBA game, which are in the thousands of dollars. The 2 times I've sat courtside at WNBA games, which have both been this year, one, the ticket was $80 and one, the ticket was like $150, which is still like pricey, but that will get you a second deck seat in MSG.
Right.
Like, it's no comparison to the value that you get at it. It's wildly underpriced. I'm going to try to go to as many games before people realize and catch on that the WNBA is incredible and ticket prices should be much higher.
I've still never been to a WNBA game, so we need to make that happen.
We should make it happen. We should see how expensive the Liberty tickets are. And then if they are, we could just go to like a Connecticut Sun game and just take a metro train up there and have a fun little Connecticut day.
We're going to go to a Connecticut Sun game, and then we're going to tie that in with a trip to the Basketball Hall of Fame with our friend Chris Chan. How about that for a weekend?
That would be a fun weekend. I like this. See, this is how it happens. So Sal and I had this plan for a while. Obviously, COVID then made things a little trickier. But once Sue made it clear that this was going to be her last season, we knew we had to do this. And I was waiting on bated breath to make sure that she announced she would be playing at all this season, because there was worries that she might retire. Once she said she was going to play, Sal and I were like, all right, let's do this. We looked at all of the games in which the Mercury and the Storm would be playing each other and tried to find the one that made the most sense for our schedules. Sal lives in Oakland. I live in New York. So we were going to both have to travel to go to the game, but we were trying to figure out, all right, we definitely want to see Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird play against each other. Let's find the one that makes the most sense. I believe these two teams this season played 3 times. One of them was right after Sal was going to get back from his honeymoon, so not ideal. The other one, I would have had to miss Kelly's birthday, so also not ideal, because I think it was a day game the day after her birthday, so I would have had to fly up the night before.
You would have had to skip a birthday for a bird day.
Nice, which, as much as I love Sue Bird, not an ideal husband move. But then fortunately, this game that was in late July worked well for both Sal and I, and we were a little worried because it was the last of them. So just because as the season would have had more games in it, there was a higher risk of one of them being hurt. Thankfully, neither of them were hurt. So the day the tickets went live, because that was another thing that was confusing, where some tickets went live, but others didn't. And there was like, it was open for season ticket holders and blah, blah, blah. I was constantly going to phoenixmercury.com/tickets or whatever. Like one of those things so often where if I just typed P into my browser, it was like, do you want to go here? So
that is the most innocent way anyone's ever talked about typing P into their browser.
Finally, we were able to get the tickets, and someone who I guess was a season ticket holder was putting up their courtside seats for sale. So we got them. It was the only courtside seats available, and we'll put links to posts and stuff. I'll probably make a bunch of photos from it, the social media post announcing this episode, but they were right by the corner 3, which is also where I was when I saw the Indiana Fever play the Mercury. And it's a cool seat because when people are setting up for corner 3s, they are right there. Like I could reach out and touch them and not have to stretch. You're not supposed to, as the little cards that you get on your seat remind you. But got the seats, and then we booked everything else like flights and hotels and all that. And then we were having our little boys weekend, and it was fun because when I would tell people about this, the reactions were very different. Kelly, obviously knowing how big of a fan it was, she just thought it was very cool. A good chunk of people were just like, oh, that's neat. Some people not realizing it was for a WNBA game, and people being kind of weird, like, oh, you like the WNBA? It's like, yes, it's basketball. I love basketball. I want to watch basketball. And then a lot of people assuming that I had a live show in Phoenix and I was making a trip out of it. And I was like, no. This is just for the game. And we are flying in, watching a game, and then flying home.
Right.
So got in, everything was all solid. Sal's flight got delayed a little bit, but then we finally got together. We had some incredible authentic Mexican cuisine at this place called La Santissima. They're not paying me to say this, but this place slaps. If you find yourself in Phoenix, eat at La Santissima. It's just this incredible authentic Mexican place where they basically have a trifold menu, and in the middle of the menu, it just has all of the different filling options, if you will. So meats, vegetables, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So if you wanted a chicken, whatever, or a pork, whatever, or an avocado, whatever. And then it has columns where you can get that as a taco or a burrito or a queso, which is something new that I had never had, which is kind of like if a enchilada and a burrito met in the middle, but it was made all out of corn, kind of like a tamale. So it was like a big chunky tamale with a bunch of stuff inside of it. Really solid. We had that. The menu also let us know that it was Pancho Villa's favorite food. So how can you not with a ringing endorsement like that? So we got some cases and added a bunch of stuff. Really, really good stuff. We went with my tried and true thing when I order food, which is if something is named after the restaurant, I order it because if a place is going to name a dish after the place, it's probably good. I first utilized this strategy when I was living in Europe and I couldn't read most of menus. I would just trust that's named after the place. I don't speak Turkish. It's probably good.
It must be confusing for you at McDonald's where everything is called the mix something, but I sense that you don't eat at McDonald's a whole lot.
Not a lot, but if I do, I'm a big McMuffin boy. Love a McMuffin. Was very happy when they extended the hours. Yeah, an egg McMuffin, especially when they had the egg white one, which I don't know if they still rock. Love an egg white delight McMuffin.
It was actually really good, yeah.
So we got that stuff. It was fantastic. We also got horchata, which was very, very good. So we had some incredible Mexican food, and then we made our way back to our hotel, got all dressed, and went to the game. Very important later detail. I was wearing my Super jersey, which I would be wearing for this recording, but it is stinky because I wore it to the gym yesterday because I was like, this jersey's semi-dirty because I wore it to the game.
Let me make it fully dirty.
Exactly. So we got to the game and the Mercury play at the same stadium where the Phoenix Suns play. And this is a different experience for me because when we went to the Indiana Fever game, they played a smaller arena, not the same arena where the Pacers play. So because it was at the stadium, the Footprint Arena, I think either the Footprint Center or the Footprint Arena, the Foot, when we got to the Foot, we had more of the full NBA game experience, which is cool. And especially because the Mercury are good and very popular. There were 14,000 people there, which is awesome. Pretty sizable. Even MSG's capacity is like 25,000. So It was basically completely full for what they allow, where they kind of block off some of the upper deck seats or some of the ones that'll have more of obstructed views so that people are lower down and closer. And that's common for WNBA teams that play in NBA arenas. But 14,000 at a WNBA game is really solid turnout.
Well, and I also imagine for WNBA fans, they understood the importance of this final matchup.
Yes, there were a lot of people there wearing Sue Bird gear. There were a lot of people there wearing custom shirts that I thought were really cool, where it was a black shirt with a purple goat on it. And then on top of the goat was a bird. And then the goat had a little 3, which is Diana Taurasi's number. And then the bird had a little 10. So it was a cool, I'm assuming it was made by Phoenix Mercury fans, but it's just really cool to see people of another team genuinely love the other player so much. And it's the most unique thing I've ever experienced, where sure, you'll have games where you want to see someone's last game, whether it be Kobe or Derek Jeter or whoever, but there doesn't seem to be as much genuine love for that person. It's more of just, this is a great person I should see before I retire. It was a weird mix of, it was a Phoenix Mercury game, but Sue Bird got plenty of ovations throughout, which was really cool.
Well, it's probably a little reminiscent of like Jordan's final game at the Garden in a Wizards uniform or whatever. Like, despite the fact that Jordan tormented the Knicks for years, I still feel like Knicks fans are basketball fans and had an appreciation for him.
Right. Especially if he was wearing a Wizards jersey, it kind of made that a little easier to digest.
Right. Yeah.
So we get to the Foot. We tried to go into the VIP entrance, which we were supposed to be able to go into per our tickets because we had courtside seats. And the people there said no. And I didn't want to argue with the people. It was also 112 degrees.
But it's dry. It's a dry heat.
It was a dry heat, which is a legitimate thing, but it still was very hot. Even the dryness maybe made it feel more like 100, which is not enjoyable.
Right.
So
you're heading into the dry foot.
We're heading into the athlete's foot. Instead of going in the VIP entrance, which we were supposed to go into, we went to the commoner's entrance that was closest to it.
With all the peasants not sitting courtside?
With all the peasants who had regular tickets? So we get in pretty quickly, and then we ask someone, hey, here's our seat section, where do we go? And they say, oh, you're courtside, go to this section. So we walk over to the section, and before we can go onto the court to go to our seats, someone directs us, oh, you need to go into this hallway to get your wristbands. And what hallway was it? The VIP entrance that we tried to get into earlier.
Son of a bee.
Which was just kind of annoying because it's kind of a cool thing when you get to do this, because when I was at the Indiana game with my buddy Ricky, we walked through a door that said player personnel only. You go into the back thing where you see the players walk when they take pictures of them stuff. It just feels really cool. So unfortunately, we just got to the regular way to get into it, and then we go back and you kind of say the smallest of gripes, but it would have been cool if we just went all the way in. But we got our wristbands, and what I learned about the wristbands is that it wasn't just you can be courtside wristband. We got access to, and they're not paying me to say this, the Michelob Club. and the Michelob Club, I guess, is the sponsor, but you'll see this at some other NBA arenas. I know this is a thing. If you sit in the lowest level closest to the court at a Knicks game at MSG, they have the Chase Club level or whatever, where you basically get access to a fancy little bar and stuff where they have hors d'oeuvres and stuff, but it's just things like cookies and tiny sandwiches and cheese and crackers. It wasn't like shrimp cocktails and stuff, but there was still free food that we could have. We were very full from our Mexican food, so we didn't have any of that. But we also got 2 drink tickets. So Sal got a beer and I got a white Zinfandel wine because they had it and that sounded so fancy. It was delicious. And because it was wine, they gave it to me in a tiny little plastic cup because of the, percentage alcohol rules. So it was much smaller than a cup, so I was basically drinking out of a little Dixie cup, which was very cute, but the wine was tasty, so you can't argue with the results.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know if you drinking a white Zinfandel is helping people's ignorant image of the WNBA, but you know what, that's all right.
Well, the drink ticket could be used on beer or wine, and that was it, so you couldn't use it on liquor or anything like that. I wasn't feeling drinking a full beer, especially because I was still pretty full, so I figured let's have the wine. And I don't know enough about wine to know what type I like. I usually just go based on price and what the label looks like. Right. So when they said white Zinfandel, I was like, I don't know if I've had one of these ever, / if I did, I didn't know I did. So I got it just to try something new, and it was tasty. I enjoyed it.
That's actually Mike's nickname when he plays basketball.
White Zinfandel. Why is he red? So we had our drinks. What was cool is you can take the drinks out onto the court, but much like a baseball game, you couldn't get alcohol after the end of the third quarter, kind of like in baseball after the 7th inning stretch or whatever. You can't get more. The other really neat thing that I did appreciate is they just had a big fridge of bottled water, and you could just get as much bottled water as you like, which I very much appreciate. So grabbed some bottled waters, headed to our seats, and then just watched everybody warm up. And it's just so cool. When you're courtside, people are warming up. You can feel the footsteps because your seat is on the court. So you can feel people's footsteps. You can feel the dribbles. It's super sweet. So where we were seated, the Phoenix Mercury was shooting at the hoop where we were closest to. And down the other end, it was Jewel Lloyd and Brianna Stewart, 2 all-stars who play for the Storm. They were warming up, so I was just amazed by them. But then Sophie Cunningham, who plays for the Phoenix Mercury, was practicing 3-pointers. She was nailing a bunch, and I posted this from the Horse account so we can put a link to it. But then she got to the corner 3 right in front of us, and I believe made 8 3-pointers straight. Yeah, just knocked him down like it was nothing. And that was one of the first things that we saw after taking our seats. And it just really set the tone of, this is very cool. These people are very talented. This is going to be really fun. Some warm-ups happened. People left the court because then they're changing out of practice gear into their actual gear. And then they come back onto the court, do your classic warm-ups like your layup lines and all of that. We were on, again, the side where the Mercury was warming up, so get to see them take all their layup lines and stuff. A note that I did tweet, Diana Taurasi, incredible high-fiver. Incredible form. Just that good kind of bent hand rear it back slap high-five, like the quick
getting some good sound on those too?
Yeah, getting some really good sound. She was hitting them. Lots of no-look high-fives, very nonchalant, but very affirmative with the high-fives. She's high-fiving everybody.
Well, she's had a lot of practice, and that good for her because there's really nothing more disheartening than a poorly executed high-five.
Right. She has perfected the craft after all of her years in the league, and it's great.
Well, she's the GOAT.
She's the GOAT. Really good high-five claps going all around. It's also fun. You can just kind of hear some of the chatter. Even though they're playing music, you can hear some of the players talking to each other, which is really fun. And then they introduced the Seattle Storm starters. And much like any sporting event, it was a very muted kind of thing where it's just, starting at guard number 24, Jewel Lloyd, not anything high energy. To the announcer's credit, when they announced Sue Bird, he got mad hype as if this person was playing for the Phoenix Mercury. So that was cool. Everybody gave a big ovation. But then let me also just kind of backtrack. I think before this, they did the Sue Bird gift presentation. So we had talked about this with Jordan Liggins, that teams are probably going to give Sue Bird some sort of gift. The gift that they gave Sue is very on brand. She is super into shoes, specifically Jordans. So they gave her a custom pair of Jordan 1s that we can also put a link to because the Phoenix Mercury posted a really cool thing where you can see how in depth it is. But it's got custom colors to fit the Storm colors. It has designs made out of, I don't know if they're real diamonds. Maybe they're just bedazzled fake diamonds, but there's little diamonds that show out how many times Sue Bird has won the championship and other accolades, and there's a cool little zigzag design on it and stuff. making it look more Storm-esque. Just a really cool custom pair of Jordan 1s for Sue Bird. And they did a whole thing at center court where they played a video of a bunch of Phoenix Mercury players explaining what Sue has meant to them and to the league and to their inspirations. So that was really cool. There's a clip of Diana Taurasi where, of course, it started sentimental and then she made fun of Sue. When they did the presentation, it was the COO of the Mercury and then whoever was emceeing and then Sue Bird and then Diana Taurasi. And I don't know what they were saying, but Sue and Diana Taurasi were just cracking up the entire time. So I'm guessing Diana Taurasi was like talking shit the entire time.
Love it.
But they were laughing. Sue seemed genuinely touched. She was really happy, thanked all the fans and stuff. It was really cool. And by being that close, like you could just see her facial expressions, and it was really cool to see how touched she was by the whole thing.
Nice.
After the presentation, they introduce the Storm starters, and then they're doing a thing to introduce the Mercury starters. And they do the whole big dramatic thing where they drop the lights, and they're saying, oh, now get ready for the Phoenix Mercury, that whole thing. Mm-hmm. Now, at this point, the Seattle Storm bench is right across from where we are seated, and Sue Bird's seat is exactly across from mine. So if I had a very, very, very long ruler, I could touch Sue Bird. Like she was directly across from me across the court, which was perfect. Accidentally stumbled into the greatest seat in the house. When they are announcing the starters, she was just kind of staring ahead. And I was not excited for the Mercury starters to be announced because I'm rooting for the Storm. So I see that she's kind of looking in my direction and I'm wearing a Seattle Storm Sue Bird jersey. So I just kind of do the thing where I put my thumb underneath the sleeveless sleeves of it and just kind of shake it and nod my head a little bit like, hey, let's go Storm, let's go you. And she sees me doing this and then just like breaks out into a big smile and then gives me like a double like up nod of approval.
I see you.
Yeah, literally that. And I just... it just made the whole day. The game hadn't even started, and I was like, I don't care if Sue scores 0 points and the Storm lose by 80. This has all been worth it. Sue Bird has at least acknowledged my existence.
Very, very cool.
And it was just so cool, and it was just the perfect level of not making a scene of it, because I always feel so weird with celebrity type things. Like, I didn't want to yell anything during the game or during warm-ups or whatever. Yeah, like, and I don't, like, during, there were many times where she was doing an inbound pass, and all I would say is like, yeah, let's go Sue, like, motivational things. I don't want to like scream like, Sue, I have a podcast, come on the show. Like,
what's your favorite color?
Right, yeah. All I was saying was like, let's go Sue. Or there was a time where like she fell down because she was fouled and her teammates were helping her up. I was like, your shoes look cool. So I didn't want to like make a scene or like make this about me. So to have the nice little thing where the nonchalant acknowledgement was really cool, and it was exactly what I was looking for.
And also something that completely justifies sitting courtside, because you quite literally could not have had that interaction from pretty much anywhere else in the stadium.
Exactly. And I'm just so glad the seats worked out, because I remember when I got them, I was kind of sad. Oh, the seats aren't in the middle. They're all the way to the side. Half the game, it's going to be a weird angle, but it all worked out. It was all meant to be. I was right across from Sue Bird. So then the game took place. The game, of course, was awesome. I was so impressed with how talented everybody is. And when you're that close, you just like really get a sense of how hard it is to be a WNBA player. Like, everyone's really good. The defense is really intense. Everything is so fast paced. It's also, by being so close, you feel more of the anxiety of things like the shot clock running down or getting double teamed.
It's a completely different experience when you're that close.
It's so different. You fully get a sense of it. You can feel more of the tension. Like when the Mercury, they ended up winning, when they started to go on a run in the fourth quarter and the game was getting out of hand, I felt sad. Like, I felt like I was also on the Storm, because I was like, oh no, you can feel the arena getting hyped because the Mercury are doing well, and you can feel how anxious people are because the Storm have missed 5 shots in a row or whatever. But the game itself was really cool. There was a lot of moments where Sue Bird was really close to us, which was cool. There's points where Diana Taurasi was close to us. There was lots of times where they were playing against each other, so I was just taking photos of them, and I was just doing the thing where I had my phone in front of me and I wasn't looking at my phone, but I was like, this is pointed in the right direction, right? And just kind of like took a million and deleted any that were bad. But it was really cool. It was a good game. There were some really fun moments. Skylar Diggins-Smith balled out of her mind. She played so well. And it's funny because this was also the Tina Charles revenge game, because Tina Charles was on the Mercury and then divorced the contract. So anytime Tina Charles had the ball or scored, the whole arena booed her, which was just hilarious. Like, Sal and I cracked up laughing anytime they booed Tina Charles. It was so funny. Tina was truly trying to prove it. It looked like she was trying to go for it, and she did not have a good game. Skylar Diggins-Smith, the reverse, worse. It felt like she was personally offended by Tina Charles existing and decided, I will eviscerate the Seattle Storm because of it. She had 36 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, something like that. She was just absolutely balling. And there were 2 really cool moments where, one, she did a crossover and made a Storm defender just absolutely fall over, like complete break ankles move. And it was Stephanie Talbot, and then made the shot and then just did this like, oh, like I'm going wild, fingers circling around the ears thing. And then she did one where Tina Charles was guarding her and the shot clock was going down, so she just had to hoist up a 3. And Tina Charles, who's a very tall woman, just fully contested Skylar Diggins-Smith, who is not a very tall woman, and she made the 3-pointer over her. And then she just did the hand in the face, and she put it so close to her face to truly say, your hand was so much in my face, but I was completely unfazed. Yeah. And that once that one happened, it was kind of late in the fourth quarter. There was a couple minutes left. That was just like the game was gone. And then after the game, it's really cool. What I like about WNBA games, the players kind of hang around the court a little bit more and do some cute things with the crowd. Some people will stay around and take pictures and stuff, but at least the bigger names, they do the whole like post-game interview thing. But then at least what the Mercury did, they gave t-shirts to some of the players, and Skylar Diggins-Smith explicitly ran looking for young girls in the crowd to toss the t-shirt to. So it wasn't like she was chucking it way up into the stands. She was actively looking for young tiny girls in the arena and then would toss it and like point it out and like tell people to move away to make sure like I'm giving it to this girl.
And I love that. You're like, she's creating a memory for these kids, which is really cool.
Right. It was really, really cool. The whole game was really fun. I was sad that the Storm lost, but it was just still such a great experience. Everyone was super stoked for Sue. It was just really fun. It was just like a very positive arena. Like everyone at the game, there was no like trash talk before or after the game. Everyone was just like, we're here for a really cool moment. And it just made everything feel cool. And the whole trip was worth it. And I was there with one of my best friends, and it was just great. I had a great time, and I'm glad we made it happen. And it actually happened.
Very cool. I'm very glad you got that experience.
Thanks, man. Thanks for listening to this episode of Horse Horses, hosted by Adam Amawala and Mike Schubert. Our editor is Misha Stanton. The music is by Bettina Kumpamanis. The art is by Allison Wakeman, and the website is by Kelly Schubert.
Thank you to our producer-level patrons, Polly Burge, Kendra Hadley, Salvatore Testa, Trust the Process, Siobhan Ellsbury, He Sells Seashells, Don't Go Chasing Taco Falls, Bang, Bang, Long-Suffering Timberwolves fan, Roast Beef Debris, Kid the Conqueror, Basketball is Life 2, Mikhail Loves Allison, Denver Steve Nuggets, Anna Borgelli, Weird Questions, Mitch Chrysler, Kef Sturry for 3.
GANB.
Nice. That was good. That's pretty clever. And last but not least, Nicole Arsenault. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Horse Hoops, and on Twitter at Horse_Hoops because
Horse Hoops divorced their contract with Twitter and now they're suspended.
Well, maybe they had their reasons. Who can say?
Who can say?
Go to our website, horsehoops.com, to links to some of the fun stuff we talked about today, a bunch of content from Mike's incredible experience courtside at a WNBA game, and of course, KD's tweets.
And if you want to support the show, you can do so at patreon.com/horsehoops. We've got physical merch like stickers and jerseys that say cash considerations on the back. We've got digital stuff that you can get access to, like Adam's 5-on-5, bonus audio, bonus video, lots of fun stuff over there. Speaking of the website, I do want to give a shout out to the editor of some of my other shows, Sherry Guo, who figured out a website issue that was happening to the Horse website. Oh. Thank you, Sherry, for figuring it all out. So if you had some weird links and stuff going on, they are all fixed. So that's all settled. But this episode is also settled. So let's end it as we do every episode by putting our hands in the middle and say something on the count of 3. What are you feeling, Adam?
I think we do a little combo. And we say on 3, I'm me, I do me, and I chill, followed by bird noises.
Love it. Love it a lot. All right. 3, 2, 1.
I'm me, I do me, and I chill. Call!